The envelope no one was supposed to see. Before we dive in, hit that subscribe button because stories like this, the ones that slip through the cracks, the ones someone tried to bury, they don't surface often. And trust me, you'll want to be here when the next truth breaks free. The sirens tore through the quiet suburban night like a warning. Blue and red lights reflected off rain-slick pavement, dancing across the windows of Maple Ridge, a sleepy neighborhood where nothing serious was ever supposed to happen. But tonight, police were racing toward a crime scene that would haunt the town for years. A body had been found behind the old Franklin hardware store, collapsed beneath a broken security light that flickered like a dying heartbeat. The victim, a local mechanic named Daniel Rourke, had been reported missing only 3 hours earlier. Investigators moved quickly. The scene was taped off. The coroner made quiet notes. The lead detective gave a statement to the press before sunup. And by noon the next day, authorities released their conclusion: a fight gone wrong, a suspect already in custody, case closed. It all felt strangely rushed, but the town accepted it. Everyone moved on. Everyone except Lena Ward. Lena was 24, barely 6 months into her first reporting job at the River County Herald. She covered community fairs, ribbon cuttings, high school debates, stories that mattered to locals but never shook anything bigger. She had ambition. She wanted the kind of story that tore through the surface and exposed something real. Something dangerous. Something worth remembering. That story arrived on a Tuesday morning in a plain, unmarked envelope slipped through the mail slot of her tiny newsroom desk. No return address. No name. Just her own printed on the front, spelled perfectly, the kind of detail only someone who knew her, or researched her, would bother with. Inside were 5 pages of internal police memos, each stamped with the same bold red mark, for official use only. The memos referenced the Rourke case, the one declared solved months ago. But the language was different. Instead of certainty, there were doubts. Instead of a confident timeline, there were inconsistencies. And on page 3, Lena spotted the line that made her sit straight up. Subject in custody does not match eyewitness account. Pressure from above to expedite closure. Pressure. From above. Her stomach tightened. This was not some typo or clerical mix-up. Someone inside the department had questioned the arrest, and someone else wanted that doubt buried. Lena immediately felt the weight of the pages, like she was holding something radioactive. She scanned every line again. Dates didn't line up. Phone logs were inconsistent. Important statements were missing. Whoever wrote these memos knew something wasn't right, and someone higher up had shut them down. She tucked the envelope into her bag, heart pounding as she walked out of the newsroom. The parking lot felt too open, too exposed. A truck slowed as it passed her, headlights briefly locking on her face before continuing down the street. Maybe nothing. Maybe everything. She drove straight to the home of Detective Morris Hale, the officer who had given the original statement on the case. He opened the door wearing a surprised expression that quickly turned to concern when he saw the envelope in her hand. "We shouldn't talk about that," he muttered before she even asked a question. "Detective, the official report said the case was closed in 12 hours, Lena said. "That's fast. Too fast." Someone thought so too. Someone inside the department. Hale rubbed his forehead, his jaw tightening. For a moment, Lena saw fear flicker behind his eyes. "You need to leave this alone," he whispered. "There are things about that case you don't understand." "What things?" she pushed. He stepped outside, glancing up and down his street like a man expecting company. "You're a good reporter. Don't get yourself buried trying to dig up something that people with a lot more power want to keep quiet." That was all he said before abruptly retreating inside and closing the door. Lena stood on the porch, stunned. She had come expecting denial, maybe irritation. She hadn't expected fear. Honest, visible fear. Back in her car, she opened the envelope again. On the last page, she noticed something she had missed earlier, a faint pencil mark in the margin, barely visible unless the light hit it just right. 2 scribbled words. "Check basement." Basement? Before she could decipher it, a shadow passed across her rearview mirror. A dark SUV had pulled up behind her, engine running, headlights off. For a long, silent moment, it didn't move. Her pulse hammered. She started the ignition and eased away, but the SUV didn't follow. Not yet. That night, Lena spread the documents across her kitchen table, trying to connect the dots. Why contradict the official report? Why warn her to walk away? Why mark a note about a basement? And who, out of all the people in this town, had chosen her? She studied the memos again, tracing the dates. One stood out. A day before the case was closed, an officer had filed an addendum requesting permission to search Daniel Rourke's workshop basement, an entry missing from the public report. Lena covered her mouth as realization hit. The basement was never searched. Someone had intentionally removed that detail from the final record. And Daniel Rourke's workshop, abandoned since the day he died, still sat at the edge of town, unguarded. She grabbed her keys without hesitation. But when she reached the workshop and pushed open the creaking side door, she froze. Because from somewhere beneath the floorboards, she heard it. A faint, rhythmic tapping. Not random. 3 taps. 3 taps again. A signal. A message. A warning. Or someone trying to get out. The tapping didn't stop. 3 knocks, a pause, then 3 more. In the cold, stale air of the abandoned workshop, the sound felt impossibly alive, too deliberate to be the building settling, too calm to be an accident. Lena's breath caught, her fingers tightening around the flashlight she'd brought. Dust swirled in the beam as she moved deeper inside, each footstep echoing off rusted car parts, overturned stools, and shelves lined with tools that hadn't been touched since Daniel Rourke's death. The workshop smelled like forgotten oil and damp wood. Everything was exactly as the police had left it, except for the sound beneath her feet. Every instinct warned her to turn back, but the memos in her bag, the hastily erased pencil mark, and Hale's fear-stricken face pushed her forward. Someone wanted her to find this. Her flashlight caught a square outline on the floor, an access hatch, half hidden beneath a grimy rug. She dropped to her knees and pulled it back, revealing rusted iron hinges and a padlock that was still intact but looked scratched. As if someone had tried to open it. Recently. The knocking stopped. Silence stretched across the room, thick enough she could hear her own heartbeat. Lena crouched, tracing the edge of the hatch. She didn't dare call out. She didn't know if she'd be inviting danger or someone who needed help. Her phone buzzed violently in her pocket. A known number. Against her better judgment, she answered. A voice whispered on the other end, shaky, urgent, terrified. Do not open that hatch. Lena froze. Who is this? The line crackled. Walk away, Lena. If you open it, you won't come back out. Tell me who you are, she demanded, her voice cracking. But the call disconnected. She stared at the dead phone screen, heart pounding so hard it bruised her ribs. The warning wasn't from Hale, she knew his voice now. It wasn't from anyone she recognized. Someone was watching her. Someone who knew exactly where she was. And someone who assumed she was already considering opening the hatch. She stood, scanning the windows. A silhouette moved outside, fast, like they were ducking out of sight. Every hair on her arms lifted. She wasn't alone here. Lena backed toward the door, but then, softly, carefully, 3 taps from below. She turned back to the hatch. The knocks were weaker now, almost pleading. Whoever was down there wasn't threatening her. They wanted out. Slowly, she stepped toward the hatch again. Her hands shook as she pulled a wrench from the wall, wide, heavy, solid enough to break the padlock. She lifted it above her head. But when she swung down, the door to the workshop slammed open with violent force. Detective Hale stumbled in, out of breath and wild-eyed. Stop. Don't open it. Lena spun around, wrench still raised. You followed me? I tried to get here before you did. He closed the door and locked it behind him, chest heaving. You shouldn't be here alone. Who's under the floor? Lena asked. Hale didn't answer. He ran a hand through his hair, pacing the dirt-covered concrete like he was about to confess to something he'd held inside for months. Daniel Rourke didn't die because of a fight, he said quietly. He was covering for someone. Lena's throat tightened. Who? The person the department was ordered not to investigate. She stepped closer. Ordered by who? Hale swallowed hard. People with enough influence to erase a case before it even started. The tapping softened again. 2 weak knocks this time. Lena's chest ached. "Detective, someone is actually down there." Hale shook his head. "It's not who you think." "Then who?" His eyes locked onto hers. "Someone who was supposed to disappear." Before she could press him further, headlights swept across the windows. Slow, searching. Hale's face drained of color. "They're here," he whispered. "Who?" He didn't answer. He grabbed the wrench from her hand, tossed it aside, then pulled her behind a stack of wooden crates. The SUV outside idled, engine rumbling like a warning growl. 2 doors opened. Footsteps crunched on gravel. Lena held her breath as shadows stretched across the workshop floor. A voice, deep, confident, and far too calm for the situation, spoke just outside the door. "Detective Hale. We know you're in there." Lena's pulse thundered in her ears. Hale pressed a finger to his lips, urging her to stay silent. The man outside continued. "You've had enough time. Open the hatch. Bring up the evidence." "Evidence?" The footsteps drew closer. The doorknob rattled. Hale whispered, "They think what's under that hatch will prove everything. They want control of it before anyone else sees." The door creaked as someone began forcing it open. Hale looked at Lena with fierce urgency. "When I tell you to run, you run. Don't look back. Don't hesitate." The hatch beneath them gave one final, desperate knock. 2 men stepped inside, faces shadowed, voices cold. Hale grabbed Lena's wrist. "Run. Now." Lena didn't think. She just ran. The workshop door exploded inward behind her, splinters flying across the concrete floor as 2 men stormed inside. Their footsteps thundered after her, heavy and sure, while Detective Hale shoved a toolbox off a shelf to block their path. It bought only seconds, but seconds were enough. She sprinted down a narrow hallway toward the back exit, her breath ragged, her heart pounding so violently she could hear it over the chaos. Hale was right behind her. "They'll trap us if we go outside," he shouted. "Then where?" she gasped. He grabbed her shoulder, spun her toward a staircase that descended into the dark, deeper, dangerously close to the hatch. "Basement," Hale said. "It's the only way." Lena obeyed, racing down the wooden steps. Hale slammed the door behind them as the intruders reached the top landing. The wood shuddered under their kicks. Down below, the basement was colder than she expected, almost unnaturally so. Dust coated everything. Rusted shelving, old car parts, cracked containers. But the strangest part wasn't what she saw. It was what she didn't. No hatch. No person trapped underneath. Just a room lined with file boxes. Hundreds of them. Hale reached her side, breathing hard. "They lied to you," he whispered. "There was never anyone under that hatch." "But I heard knocking," Lena insisted. "Someone was signaling." "Yes," Hale said. "And someone wanted you to hear it." Her skin prickled. "You mean they staged it? To lure you here? To retrieve this?" He pointed at a stack of boxes marked with red tape. Evidence from the Rourke case. The real evidence. The part that was never filed. Lena felt her pulse slow as the truth finally began piecing itself together. So Daniel Rourke didn't hide anything down here. "No," Hale whispered. "But someone else did." Above them, boots hammered down the steps. "They're coming," Lena said. Hale grabbed the nearest box and tore it open. Inside were photographs, reports, phone records, documents far more detailed than the sanitized version released to the public. The images weren't violent, but they were damning. Daniel Rourke meeting with a city councilman 2 nights before he vanished, a councilman who had lobbied for land rights tied to a multi-million-dollar development deal. Lena's eyes widened. He was a whistleblower. Yes, Hale confirmed. He'd discovered money being funneled into off-the-books accounts. He was about to come forward. "And he died right after," she whispered. "Because someone needed him gone," Hale said. His voice broke, and the department was told to shut it down. The footsteps above grew louder. They were only seconds away. Lena grabbed a handful of documents, stuffing them into her backpack. "We have to get this out." But Hale stepped back. You go. What? No, we both leave. Hale shook his head. I signed those memos you found. I tried to reopen the case. I'm the reason Daniel's file wasn't fully buried. They won't let me walk out of here. Lena felt her chest tighten painfully. Hale. Go, he ordered, voice cracking. If one of us gets out alive, let it be the one who can tell the truth. The basement door above burst open. Hale shoved her behind a row of shelves and faced the intruders with no weapon, no cover, just resignation. Lena clamped a hand over her mouth as the men confronted him. You should have stayed silent, one of them said. Where's the evidence? Hale didn't answer. They dragged him away, up the stairs, the basement door slamming shut behind them. The moment they were gone, Lena bolted for the far corner of the room. She'd spotted it minutes earlier, a narrow maintenance tunnel leading out of the basement, barely wide enough for one person. She slipped inside, her backpack scraping the walls, heart pounding in her throat. The tunnel spat her out into a thicket of brush behind the workshop. The night air felt icy and unreal. She crawled out, ran through the trees, and didn't stop until she reached her car. She drove straight to the River County Herald. Inside the dimly lit newsroom, she dumped the documents across her desk. Phone records, bribe trails, photos. Everything the public was never supposed to see. Her hands trembled as she typed, piecing together the real timeline, the real motive, the real cover-up. By morning, the story was live. Within hours, it spread across the state. By noon, larger outlets picked it up. By evening, it hit national circulation. Authorities were forced to respond. Search teams stormed the workshop, seizing every remaining box. Officials denied involvement. The councilman resigned. Investigations opened. Press conferences were held. But not everyone survived the fallout. Detective Hale's body was found before sunset. No signs of struggle, no clear cause of death. The statement labeled it medical complications. Lena didn't believe a word of it. She folded her hands over her keyboard, staring at the headlines she had unleashed. She didn't feel triumphant. She didn't feel victorious. She felt watched. That night, as she walked to her car, she noticed a single envelope resting on her windshield. No return address. Inside was one line, typed in bold black ink. You published one truth. Now do you want the next one? At the bottom, a handwritten note. Check the warehouse on 5th, midnight. Come alone. Lena's pulse froze. Because the handwriting, the careful, deliberate shape of the letters, was the exact same as in the original envelope. And whoever sent it wasn't finished. If you thought this case was intense, you're not ready for what comes next. Subscribe so you don't miss the next truth.